That is my first hole of the 2020 ice season. We're out here on Red Lake in northern Minnesota. I'm out here with my buddy Brett McComas, and we're gonna see if we can stick some walleyes. There we go. All right, so there we go. First walleye of the 2020 ice season. Like I said earlier, that fish actually was gill hooked, so we will be taking it home. I bumped it and it is just under 17 inches. Now, the last few years, Red Lake has actually had a 4 fish limit, and this winter specifically, they just bumped it down to a 3 fish limit with 1 over 17. So if we want to, we can take home 3 of these guys. I feel like since we've already got 1, we might as well go for a couple more.
It's so fun, man. Real life video games. See what he took there? I feel kind of like a dirtbag for using that, but if they eat it, I'm gonna use it. Came flying in and smoked it, and I missed him the first time. And then I was watching him on the live scope, and he was circling around like a freaking wolf. And then as soon as I picked up the pace and got a little hotter on the bait, he slid up and smoked it. I feel like a little kid right now.
There we go. Look at that bite. That's a good one. There's another one on the pink Rattlin puppet minnow. Check this one out. This is a pretty darn good one for out here on red. Sweet. Try not to get a shadow on it. Look at that beauty. Awesome fish. Actually, I think I'm gonna let this fish go. It's really cool. I'm not sure how it comes across on the camera, but it's almost got a green, almost sort of a emeraldy Lake Winnipeg walleye tint to it. Really cool. But yeah, this one is probably, I would say, about 19, maybe pushing 20 inches. Whoops. I'm gonna get him back in the water there. It's been pretty solid action today. There's me and Brett today are out on a Tuesday, I believe it is. The days all mixed together now, but we're out on a Tuesday and there's not a lot of traffic out here. There's a handful of guys fishing out in shacks, but it's a pretty darn nice day out. There's a little bit of wind, but I'd say it's like a little bit over 30 degrees today, so it's really pretty comfortable fishing out here. Let me get my rag. Fishing out here outside, and yeah, right now there's probably about 5-ish, give or take, inches. Obviously it's variable, and there's a ton of cracks right now too, so I would be extremely careful if you're driving around with ATVs or anything like that, because you could drive into a pretty bad area. And I've also seen some reports online too that there's actually some big giant open holes throughout the lake, and maybe by the time you're watching this those will all be frozen up, but it would just be bad news. I'd keep an eye out. I wouldn't fish at dark or in low light just for those safety concerns. But yeah, the bite has been a little bit slower than you'd expect. We're not gonna catch 50 fish today, but you know, I will say that you will never feel like a better walleye fisherman than when you're fishing on Red Lake. So I'm gonna drop my bait back in. Luckily, that one didn't even take my minnow head, so I'm gonna drop right back down and see what else I can catch. It seems you're either running into fish today that are not that interested, just lookers, will maybe check it out for a minute or two, and then the other fish are just instantly hitting it. So it's really a mood thing, and I don't know how much of it is a presentation thing. The fish that Brett caught earlier, I don't know if you noticed it, but he was actually using a big number 6 rip and wrap, so you know, that's a pretty aggressive bait. That's something you might use up on Lake Winnipeg. So when these fish want to eat, they will absolutely come up and smoke it. It seems like no matter what your presentation is, but that's one of my favorite parts about fishing in the early season like this, is the fish are really aggressive, oxygen levels are still really high, and I'm marking one right now, and oh gosh, no way, darn. Oh, and I can feel that he took my minnow, so that might have been a one and done. Anyway, I love how aggressive they are this time of year. You can use bigger baits. I'm a big spoon guy. I love using 1/8 ounce spoons, but oh, he's back, sorry. But this time of year, I will not go to a spoon unless I absolutely have to. Of course, there's gonna be days where the bite is not great, but more often than not, you're gonna run into days where, you know, like a minnow bait, like the puppet minnow works great, and even a rattle bait might work on extremely rare occasions. I just felt him hit it. Just push up against it. See, I don't have my minnow head, I think is my biggest problem right now. I think if I had that minnow head down on the bottom of the bait, I would have been smacked already. See, that right there is your culprit. No minnow head. I know sometimes you can fish these without the minnow heads, but I like to have them. It seems like you'll turn some of those more neutral fish into biters. So anyway, I'm gonna get some more meat. Okay, so really quick, I just wanted to run through just a really short tutorial on how to fish minnow baits like this. Like the puppet minnow, or the jig and wrap, shiver minnow, etc. Basically what I do is they fall nice and fast, drop it down to the bottom, get it about, I don't know, a foot, 2 feet, 3 feet. It just depends on the clarity of the water. In clear water you can fish a little bit higher off the bottom. But what I'll do is I'll just do short little up rips like this, and essentially what the bait is doing is it's jumping out away from the hole, calling in fish. And one mistake that I see often is guys will either overwork the bait, and really it's just too aggressive. If you watch this bait on the underwater camera, you'll see that a simple 1 foot, maybe 1.5 feet, sometimes even less than that is all that you really need to get the desired action with this bait. And then of course you can pound the bottom as well to potentially call fish in. But once you do end up marking a fish on screen, you're gonna wanna slow that presentation down a little bit. You'll be erratic to call them in, but you wanna slow down to get them to bite. So basically what you're gonna do is you're just gonna shake the tip of the rod there very subtly, and a lot of times that is what will seal the deal. Other times, sometimes you want to continue to work it a little bit more aggressively. That'll keep them active and chasing, but for the most part, slowing it down tends to be the ticket. And that in particular is the case when you're using a minnow head like this. So keep that in mind. If you're not using a minnow head, you're probably not going to want to slow it down too much. You don't want the fish to get too good of a look at it. So that is real quick, just kind of a basic overview of how I fish these baits. Nice fish, bud.
Thanks, dude. You hear Upper Red Lake and you think little eater walleyes, but you never know. Man, that thing scarfed rattle bait just how you want him to.
That thing has shoulders, man.
Look at that freaking dorsal fin. Dun-dun, dun-dun, dun-dun.
So I mentioned earlier that we were actually fishing in about 5 inches of, on top of about 5 inches of ice. And that is true, but we just moved to this other area over here, which is a little bit closer to one of the cracks. Actually, we're fishing quite close to the cracks, but right here it's actually 9 inches. And really what a lot of that is the ice kind of sheeting up on top of each other and building up. And so, I mean, if you're gonna come out here this weekend or this coming weekend, excuse me, this week or this coming weekend, you're just gonna wanna be careful because the ice is different all over. I would not recommend going out with anything more than a wheeler or a snowmobile, but even then I would be careful and be mindful of cracks, especially when it's dark out. And obviously, if you followed along on social media over the years, you've seen a million situations where guys and gals are way out on a sheet of ice and then the wind comes and blows like a, 30-foot gap between them and shore. So So it's just one of those things where you're gonna wanna pay attention to what's going on. And you know, if you did travel over a crack, you might wanna go and check it just to make sure that it's not separating too far. That's actually what happened to us, where we were out a little bit farther and we had to travel over a crack to do that. It was just one of those things where it was just getting a little bit too far apart and a little bit too sketchy. If we had stayed out there another hour or so, there's a real chance we could have got stranded out there. So just pay attention to the ice conditions and yeah, you don't need to be out in the middle of the lake to catch fish. Whoa! That thing just came in and smoked it. Yeah, that's nice one.
I don't want to get my hands wet, but otherwise I'd help you.
Ooh, look at that. Look at that sweet fish. You know, we've been catching a really nice average size out here. This one's probably, I would say, about a 21 incher or so. And yeah, no, it's been, one thing that I've noticed today specifically is we've been catching a lot of overs. So like I said before, the slot out here is 17 inches. And we've been catching a lot of fish that were, you know, 19, pushing 20. And yeah, so that's, you know, maybe not great news if you're purely in it for the harvest, but I personally like catching these big fish. It's getting late here. I'm gonna get this thing back in the water. There she goes. Sweet. Well, we have, I mean, the sun is gonna go over down below the horizon in like 4 or 5 minutes, and Brett just nailed one just not too long ago, so I think we're gonna try and catch some more. Is it pike?
It's making runs like a pike.
Yeah, it's a pike.
A few moments later.
All right, Brett, I'll set this right here for you. You deal with the pike.
Holy smokes. All right. Good old bonus. That'll get your heart pumping. Man, we're running out of time and that thing just ate up all of it.
All right, now I got one last real quick tip there. Now, one thing that I like to do when it gets dark like this, and actually on Red Lake you can fish glow baits all day long because the water is pretty darn dark and the fish really like it, but I like to fish baits with glow sticks as we're getting into the low light periods right now and into the nighttime bite. But yeah, and red of course right here is a great color on Red Lake, ironically enough. But anyway, I like to use glow because it helps the fish zero in on the bait when you're in darker water conditions like this. So just keep that in mind. I actually switched to the spoon with the glow stick on it for a little bit there, but it seems like the fish were looking for something a little bit more actively fished. So that's my quick little tip here for you for low light fishing. All right guys, well the light is leaving in a hurry, so I figured I'd just do a real quick outro before we take off. We're gonna fish a little bit longer, but if we don't catch anything else, this will be the last time you hear from me. So yeah, that pretty much puts a wrap up on the day here out on Red Lake. Tuesday, December 1st. Is it December 1st, Brett?
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Brett doesn't know. It's Tuesday, right around that first time. But anyhow, that's I guess that's the really, really long Red Lake fishing report for you. So the ice is pretty darn good. Wheelers and snowmobiles, but you got to be careful. The bite is okay, but I guess I have heard better reports before we got here. So it's just one of those things where I think it's going to get better and better for another week or so. And yeah, that early ice bite is always really, really fun using aggressive baits. And yeah, I just want to thank all of you guys for watching all the way to the end here. And if you enjoyed what you just watched, hit that little red subscribe button down below and leave me a comment down below what you want to see next. I'm really excited for this ice season coming up here, and I'm going to be on the ice a lot, I promise you that. So I want to thank you all for watching once again, and I will see you next time. How beautiful is this, man? This This is so perfect. Sun coming down, no wind. This is kind of like just peak.